The most surprising thing about crows so far has been their ability to recognize and remember particular people, and even just particular faces.
Scientists fed thousands of hours of crow sounds into an AI system, expecting nothing more than background noise. Just random cause. No meaning. But what the AI returned shocked them. It detected patterns, even what appeared to be real messages hidden inside the calls. The conclusion was unsettling. Crows aren't making random sounds. They're watching us, talking about us, and remembering what we do. Now, for the first time ever, we're beginning to understand what they've been saying all along. Ready to decode the minds of nature's most intelligent birds. So, let's get started. What the machine heard in the dark. The goal was simple. They wanted to see if the machine could sort the noises. You know? Put the "I found food" sounds in one box and the "there is a hawk" sounds in another. It was supposed to be a basic sorting task. But here is the catch. The AI did not just sort the noises. It started to panic. Well, not literally, but the data output spiked in a way that made no sense to the human observers. The computer was finding patterns that were way too complex for a bird. Basically, the AI was finding syntax. In human language, syntax is the set of rules that make a sentence make sense. It is the difference between saying, "The cat sat on the mat," and "Matt cat the sat on." One is information, the other is gibberish. We always assumed animal noise was just emotional gibberish. A dog barks because it is excited. A cat purrs because it is happy. But the AI was seeing structure. It was seeing grammar. The researchers watched as the machine isolated a specific sequence of sounds. Let us call it the red hat sequence. In the recordings, a man wearing a red hat walked through a park. A crow called. To a human ear, it sounded like any other screech, but the AI analyzed the frequency, the pitch, and the spacing between the notes. It tagged this sound as a unique identifier. 3 days later, in the data, the same man walked through the park again. The same crow made the sound again. That is interesting, but it is not groundbreaking. A dog knows its owner, right? But then things got weird. A week later, a different crow, one that had never seen the man before, made the exact same sound when the man walked by. Do you realize what that means? It means the first crow did not just make a noise. It described the man. It transmitted a packet of data, a name, to the rest of the flock. The AI showed that this specific sound was never used for anyone else. It was a proper noun. They had named him, and that is putting it lightly. The deeper the AI dug, the more terrifying the results became. It found that these conversations were not just happening in the moment. The machine detected conversations that happened before an event occurred. Crows were gathering in trees and making complex sequences of sounds that the AI determined were planning phases. They were not just reacting to the world, they were strategizing about it. The analysis showed that a massive portion of their communication, maybe even most of it, is centered on us, humans. We are not just part of their world, we are the focus of it. In their story, we are the main characters. The AI detected clear emotional signals tied to how they label humans. Some of those signals were neutral, but a large number leaned strongly toward the negative. They even used different warning signals for things like human holding a stick compared to human carrying food. That single detail changes everything. For hundreds of years, we have looked at crows and dismissed them as pests, nuisances, or simple scavengers. We chased them off, tossed stones at them, and waved our arms, assuming they were nothing more than empty-headed birds. But during all that time, they were watching closely. They were observing, remembering, and quietly collecting information. They were building a detailed profile of you. And now that we finally have the technology to understand those profiles, the real question is no longer whether they can communicate. The real question is what happens when they stop merely talking among themselves and begin to act on what they know. The consequences of this are enormous. If they have names for us, do they also have records, memories, and shared histories? According to the AI, the answer appears to be yes. It uncovered repeating patterns that stretched across years, passed from older birds to younger ones like inherited knowledge. Your reputation in the crow world could be older than the car you drive. You might already have a kind of criminal file in the sky, and you would never even know it existed. And the wildest part of all is that the AI has barely scratched the surface. It has only translated the most obvious layer of their communication. Beneath that lies a dense network of intelligence, so complex it makes our modern surveillance systems look like a child's toy. Right now, unseen eyes are watching, evaluating, and judging you. How they hack reality. So how can this even be possible? We are talking about a bird here, right? A small animal with a head about the size of a walnut. On the surface, it feels impossible that a creature that tiny could have a language or intelligence that advanced. It just does not seem to add up. But here is the truth. For a very long time, we have been measuring intelligence the wrong way. Our definition was flawed from the start. For decades, scientists believed the cerebral cortex was the only part of the brain that really mattered. That wrinkled outer layer in human brains is where our thinking happens. It is where we plan, reason, calculate, and solve problems. Birds do not have a cerebral cortex, so for nearly 100 years, researchers looked at bird brains, noticed how smooth they were, and casually concluded, nothing important is going on in there. But nature loves to fool us. Birds evolved an entirely different brain structure known as the pallium. It may look simpler from the outside, but when scientists examined it under a microscope, they discovered something shocking. The neurons inside are packed together at an incredibly dense level. A crow's brain is basically a supercomputer squeezed into the space of a USB drive. Pound for pound, their brain power rivals that of a chimpanzee. That is why researchers now call them feathered apes. And the best example of this intelligence is the New Caledonian crow, often described as the Einstein of the bird world. Most animals rely on their beaks, teeth, or claws to get food. These crows do something entirely different. They make tools, and not in a simple way. They do not just grab a stick and hope for the best. They deliberately design and shape tools. There is a plant called the pandanus, with long, sharp-edged leaves. Scientists have watched these crows fly down, land carefully, and begin what looks like a surgical procedure. The crow cuts into the leaf and then tears it into a precise stair-step pattern. What it is creating is a saw. The jagged edge is perfectly shaped to hook insects out of deep crevices. This is not luck or trial and error. This is intentional engineering. The bird has a clear design in its mind and then brings it to life. If the tool breaks, it repairs it. If the right leaf is not available, it adapts, using wire or twigs instead. But the real jaw-dropping moment comes from the water displacement test. You may have heard the old fable about the crow and the pitcher, where the bird drops stones into a jar to raise the water level so it can drink. Scientists wondered if this behavior was real or just a story. So they tested it. They placed a tube of water in front of a crow with a treat floating inside, just out of reach. Nearby, they left two piles, one of heavy stones and one of light styrofoam that floated. A simple-minded animal would toss everything into the tube randomly. But that is not what happened. The crow examined the stones. It looked at the styrofoam. It paused and seemed to think. Then it picked up the heavy stones and dropped them in one by one, completely ignoring the styrofoam. It understood density. It understood displacement. It knew the floating material would not help. In seconds, it solved a physics problem that would take a human toddler several minutes to figure out. And it does not stop there. Crows also understand cause and effect. In another experiment, they were shown a puzzle box with food inside. To get the food, they had to push a lever, but the lever was hidden. The only way to activate it was by using a stick to press a concealed button that moved the lever. The crows figured it out. They formed a mental model of how the mechanism worked simply by observing it. They can visualize systems, understand sequences, and predict outcomes. So when AI researchers tell us these birds may have a structured language, it should not shock us. They clearly have the mental hardware for it. They are not driven purely by instinct. They operate using logic. They study their environment, test it, and reshape it to their advantage. The truly unsettling part is not that they use tools. It is that they look at us and see us as just another variable in the puzzle. If they know how to manipulate objects, why would they not learn how to manipulate people? They have the brain power for it. They are unlocking the physical rules of our world. And if they can understand those rules, there is no reason to believe we are somehow beyond their reach. Wanted posters in the trees. It is not just that they are intelligent. It is that they remember. They hold grudges. And this is where the story stops being abstract and starts feeling uncomfortably personal. If you think you can mess with a crow and simply walk away without consequences, you are making a very serious mistake. Back in 2006, a researcher named John Marsluff at the University of Washington decided to find out whether crows could recognize individual human faces. He did not want to risk being attacked himself, so he came up with a clever workaround. He bought a mask, specifically a caveman mask, and wore it while capturing and banding crows on campus. He was not harming them, just tagging them for research purposes. But the crows did not see it that way. They screamed, struggled, and fought while being handled. Afterward, they were released. Marsluff then took the mask off and returned to his normal routine. He also used a second mask as a control, a mask of Dick Cheney, who was the vice president at the time. When Marsluff walked around campus wearing the Dick Cheney mask, the crows showed no reaction at all. They ignored him completely. But the instant he put the caveman mask back on, all hell broke loose. The crows began dive-bombing him. They screamed at him. They followed him across campus, yelling non-stop. At first, you might think, okay, the 7 birds he trapped recognized him. That would seem reasonable, but that is not what happened. As days passed, the number of attacking crows kept increasing. It started with 7. Then it became 20. Then 40. Birds that had never been captured, birds that had never even seen Marsluff in the mask before, joined the attacks. Even more shocking, birds that were not yet born when the experiment began also participated. 5 years later, 5 full years, Marsluff walked onto campus wearing that same caveman mask, and the crows still went after him. By that time, most of the original birds involved in the experiment were dead. Yet the next generation knew exactly who he was. They recognized the face of the enemy. This revealed something deeply unsettling. The crows had shared the information. They had described the face. They had passed along the specific visual details of the dangerous human to their friends, their neighbors, and their offspring. In effect, they had created a wanted poster in the sky. The AI research discussed earlier fits perfectly with this. Remember the red hat sequence? That vocal pattern? is the sound-based version of what Marsluff witnessed in real life. Crows appear to maintain a living database of human faces inside their collective memory. They track details like the distance between your eyes, the shape of your nose, the way you move, and how you behave. And it goes deeper than that. They can tell you apart from your neighbor. If you feed them and your neighbor throws rocks at them, they will happily swoop down to greet you, and then fly over and relieve themselves on your neighbor's car. They know exactly who did what. This database is not static either. It is constantly being updated. The AI analysis showed that when a known human enters a familiar area, an alert goes out instantly. It is a broadcast message. Target identified. Location confirmed. This means you cannot hide from them. You can change your clothes, wear a hat, or alter your routine, but your face stays the same. And because they share information so efficiently, you could annoy a crow near your home, drive 10 miles to your job, and discover that the crows there already recognize you. Their network moves faster than you do. We are living inside a panopticon, and the guards are airborne. They are watching us right now, recording our actions, judging our behavior, and deciding whether we are allies or enemies. And once you end up on the wrong side of that judgment, there is no appeal, no reset button. You are flagged for life. Your face is their data, and it is never deleted. Crime and punishment in the air. If you think their ability to recognize faces is unsettling, just wait until you understand their culture, because that is exactly what this is. It goes far beyond biology or instinct. What we are looking at is a society, a structured world with shared rules, social laws, consequences, and even funerals. When a crow dies, the flock does not simply scatter and move on. They stop. They gather. And if you have ever witnessed it, the scene is eerie. One crow discovers the body and releases a very specific call. Then everything goes quiet. One by one, dozens of crows land in the surrounding trees. They do not touch the body. They do not feed on it. They do not attack it. They just observe in silence. For a long time, scientists assumed this behavior was grief, and it might be. But the AI analysis points to something more calculated and far more intelligent. These gatherings look less like mourning and more like an investigation, a crime scene analysis. The crows are studying what happened. They are asking questions. Was the bird killed by a cat? Hit by a car? Shot by a human? They are collecting information so it can be passed on to the rest of the flock. The AI detected distinct low-frequency sounds during these funerals that appear to encode the cause of death. In a sense, they are writing an obituary that also serves as a warning to the living. And it goes even further than that. They appear to have a form of justice. Researchers have documented what can only be described as crow courts. If a crow steals food from a younger bird or violates the group's social rules, the flock responds. They surround the offender. They scream at it. They peck it. In some cases, they drive it away entirely. This is enforcement. This is punishment. Social order is maintained. And that judgment does not stop with other crows. It extends to us. The AI analysis showed that crows can tell the difference between a human holding a stick and a human holding a gun. They can even distinguish between a hunter scanning the treetops and a hiker focused on the ground. One of the most striking discoveries in the study was that the alarm call for human with weapon was completely different from the call for human with umbrella. They are not just seeing objects. They are interpreting intent. If you walk outside holding a broom to clean, they stay relaxed. If you step outside holding that same broom with aggressive posture, ready to swing, they are gone before you even lift your arm. They are reading your body language more accurately than you can read theirs. They understand what you are about to do before you do it. And then there is the gift giving. We have talked about the bad list, but there is also a good list. People who regularly feed crows have reported receiving gifts in return. Shiny beads, pieces of colored glass, small bits of metal, even coins. The AI found that the sounds crows use around these favored humans are different. Softer, higher pitched, almost warm. There are patterns that resemble affection. They are compensating you. They grasp the idea of exchange, food in return for loyalty, food in exchange for protection. They are participating in a cross-species economy. When you add it all together, funerals, courts, punishment, trade, threat assessment, reputation tracking, it becomes clear that these are not just animals scraping by in our environment. They are a parallel civilization layered directly on top of ours. They have their own rules, their own history, their own enemies, and their own allies. And according to the AI, they spend a surprising amount of time discussing us. Right now, they are evaluating you, weighing your actions, deciding where you belong. Somewhere above your head, a trial is already in progress. So the next time a crow is staring at you from a telephone wire, pause for a moment and ask yourself, is it just a bird? Or is it a scout, silently uploading your face to their network? And if they know we are watching them, what secrets are they keeping from us? What do you make of all this? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you think we might not be alone in this world, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more mysteries waiting to be uncovered.